Welcome to T2T Network, and this is New York Giants Corner. Hey, people, fellow Giants fans, let me paint a picture here. Do you remember a few years ago, Joe Judge, rookie year as head coach for the Giants? Everything went swimmingly well, considering that the team was not all that talented to begin with. We only have like 6 wins or something like that, but it looked like we were a team in his rookie year as the head coach, Joe Judge. It looked like we were a team headed in the right direction. And we had a lot of good feelings coming into the following season, which was 2021. Joe Judge, Giants fans were happy about him, excited about him. I was as well. Built up a lot of goodwill. And it wasn't long. It was not long at all into his second season where that goodwill was gone. For some of us, maybe many of us, including myself, that goodwill was gone after week 1 of his second season as head coach. When I saw what I saw in game 1 against the Denver Broncos, where it was an absolute poop show. Everything we had hoped that this team had, built on the previous season in 2020, that the team is going to be, second season under the same head coach. It seemed like there was competency there with the coaching, with the players coming along, and they laid a big egg week 1 in Joe Judge's first season. Same thing with the second season, with the second game of season 2 of his tenure. It was just another mind-boggling, 2 steps backwards from where they had been, from where they had seemingly progressed in Joe Judge's rookie year as a head coach. And it was by like maybe week 4 where it seemed like, I think they won their third week against New Orleans or Washington or something like that. And it was by week 4 or 5 where it seemed like the wheels were pretty much coming off. I mean, maybe for some people out there, it might have been, the last few games of the season where they were done with Joe Judge. For me, it was pretty much early on that season where I was kind of done. Brian Daboll, if the Giants had lost this game against Arizona, I'm not saying he was going to be fired at the end of the season, but I don't know where this team would have gone if they had lost that game against Arizona. I don't even think a great comeback and a close loss, like if the Giants had lost 31-28, that still would have left a lot of bad taste in the mouths of Giants fans. The way the season unfolded this year in game 1 against Dallas, 40-0, inexcusable preparation, inexcusable coaching, inexcusable play by the players. You can stack those any which way you want. It was all horrible. And then to come out in the first half of that game against Arizona and to look and to play like that on both sides of the ball, that's on the coaching. Because in my opinion, the team is too talented they're too talented to get their doors blown off the way they did by Dallas that badly. You want to lose 40-20, okay. 40-0? No. There's too much talent. I'm not saying this is an elite team, an elite squad of talent. It's not. I think it's a pretty good accumulation of talent, but it's certainly not elite. And for them to come out like that against Dallas was absolutely ridiculous. And I can't say I was mad the first 6 quarters of the season. I was flabbergasted. I didn't know what I was looking at. It was confusing. Even the first half of the Arizona game, I had tweeted out like, if they don't come back and win this game, this something to the effect of if they don't come back and win this game, this season's going to get real ugly really fast because it had already been ugly. And so them coming back was a necessity, and it was incredible to see. It really was incredible to see. Now, I've got my concerns going forward. I see a path forward from this Arizona game for a lot more success for this team to build on. I still think this can be a winning team this year with a winning record. Let's say 10-7. I originally had them going 11-6 before the season started, and not beating Philadelphia at all, not beating San Francisco, not beating Miami. Maybe stealing, a decent chance to steal a game against Dallas. I don't feel that way anymore. That was when I had them going 11-6. I still think they have a path forward for 10-7. Now that means beating teams such as Seattle, which I think is very doable, Buffalo, which I think is doable. I'm not saying that we should even be favored in those games, but I think those are very doable. If we turn things around right now, and I'm not expecting a win in San Francisco. I'm fine with losing in San Francisco, getting out of there healthy. I just don't want to see them get their doors blown off again. If it's going to get blown off, at least put up some points. At least lose say 37-20 or something like that. All right. And get out of there. All right. With no injuries, especially to your quarterback, with no additional key injuries. Get out of San Francisco. And I had San Francisco down as loss anyway. But what we saw those first 6 quarters was, I'm being dead honest when I say I wasn't mad. I was just confused. I was fascinated. That's the word. And that was the word I tweeted out a few times in the first half of the Arizona game. I was radio silent throughout the Dallas game. But those first 6 quarters, I was fascinated that all of this could come together and be this bad. Because I do believe in Brian Daboll. I do believe in I believe him as a head coach and as an offensive, a really good offensive mind. Okay. I got to say, I'm starting to sour on Wink Martindale. I'll get into that in a little bit. I wasn't all that, I was glad, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I was glad that Wink Martindale came back this season. Same thing with Mike Kafka, because I wanted continuity for this team. And I'm still glad he's back. I am glad he's back. But I wasn't as high on Wink Martindale last year. I was super excited when we signed him last year, before the season started last year, as our DC. And I had high hopes. I wasn't completely sold on him by the end of the year. I thought the Giants D was okay, considering that they had a boatload of holes. But after the first 2 games, I'm starting to get really, really pissed off with Wink Martindale. And I don't know what the problem is. That defense, again, I don't expect this defense to be a top 10 unit, a top 5 unit. Not at all. Nothing like that. They're still not deep enough. A lot of their talent, especially in the secondary, is young. But there is no friggin' way in hell that they should be getting demolished like that, so manhandled in the first 6 quarters of this season. That's ridiculous. And all of that disarray lays quite a bit of it's on the performance of the players. I get that, of course. But there's so much disarray where it has to be the head of the whole thing. And that is the coaching. And that includes Brian Daboll. That also includes Wink Martindale. Listen, Joe Shane went out and I think did a very good job of adding to this team. I don't put this on Joe Shane at all. He added some, he used a pretty good amount of cap space that he had to retain key young players on this team. Excuse me. And he brought in some, really good targeted free agents on the defensive side of the ball to help shore up the run game. And Ashawn Robinson, Nacho, Bobby Okereke. And I don't think like Ashawn Robinson is not, he's not the player I think he used to be, which he was always a very solid run defender. I expect him to be better than what we've had for the past few years. We've had good quality starters on our D line for quite a few years now. The interior, I'm talking about Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams. They needed help. There was no depth behind him. Ashawn Robinson should be good depth. Nacho should be good depth, at least, again, on run defense. These aren't pocket pushers, okay? But they should help you out there. Bobby Okereke should be plug-in gaps. And we're not seeing that. It's been an absolute poop show every single way around on the defense, except for the young secondary. And them I'm willing to give a break to anyway, because and don't get me wrong, they haven't really been bad, specifically Banks and Hawkins. And you can maybe criticize Adoree Jackson, but I don't think Adoree Jackson's ever played the slot before. They're asking him to play the slot now. I don't think he's ever played the slot before. So I can't really be critical of him. The criticism lays with the run defense and getting to the quarterback. And I'm sorry, but if you can't figure this out within the next few weeks, like if we're not starting to see a decent amount of pressure on the quarterback and much better play in the run defense, then Wink Martindale's got to change things up big time. And quite frankly, and if he can't, then he's got to be gone after the season, because this team's got their defense. Again, it's not an elite unit. I think they've got the talent. They're still waiting for a lot of these young guys, especially in the secondary, to catch up to the rest of the team in terms of their experience. Kayvon Thibodeau should not be looking like a bust. Kayvon Thibodeau played well last year in his rookie campaign. He wasn't great. He didn't have 12 sacks or anything like that. But the guy had, he was rarely invisible. And there was at least, 2 games that he took over last year. I think a game against Baltimore and a game against Washington, especially the game against Washington. So Wink Martindale, I don't know what, exotic schemes you have in your mind or whatever, but so far it hasn't been working. And I realize Dallas is a much better team than we are. But we saw this with Arizona too. And it's getting absolutely ridiculous. And Wink Martindale, you need to figure out the defensive side of the ball real quick. I'm not expecting us to look all that great, especially on the defensive side of the ball against San Francisco. I'm not expecting that. But after San Francisco, things had better be straightened out. That defense had better look like they know how to communicate, like they know what they're doing. Because they look lackluster. They look like they're clueless. They look absolutely horrible. And it's unacceptable at this point. Again, this is not, I've said before, you've got quite a few young players there, especially the secondary. There's only so much I can say. There's only so much, you can talk about that. But you look at the defensive line, there should be a lot of expectations there. And there should be a lot of expectations met. And I realize Okereke's our only recognizable linebacker. But I'm sorry, but things have got to change. And the play of the defense has been atrocious and 100% unacceptable. Thank God the offense showed up in the second half of the Arizona game. And it was our Superman. No, it wasn't Saquon Barkley, even though he's a huge part of the comeback. Don't get me wrong. I love Saquon. It was the $40 million quarterback that we paid this year, who I've been a backer of from day one. And they finally took the leash off. They finally let this guy go, balls to the wall, pedal to the metal. And that is when Daniel Jones has always played his best. Yes, like any quarterback, you're going to have to give him a decent amount of time. He's at the point in his career where he's really good at manipulating the pocket now. He's very good at buying himself more time. But there's only so many times you can do that. All right. But I love that they open things up. I realize this is against an Arizona team that is seen by many as actively tanking, and the front office is probably doing that. The players and the coaches aren't doing that. Certainly not the players, but still on paper, the Giants are a much more talented team than Arizona. Okay. It never should have been. It never should have been like that. And kudos to Arizona. Kudos for them for playing really, really good, tough, hard-nosed football the first 2 weeks of this season. They look I'm really happy for them, and I'm happy for the Cardinals fans that, they're fighting, that team's fighting. They're fighting, fighting, fighting. And hats off to Joshua Dobbs for, coming in short notice, taking over the reins at quarterback while Kyler Murray is out, and doing a really respectable job. And real quick about Dobbs, he did this the end of last season. I think it was the end of last season where, I don't know if it was Tennessee or some other team, I think was fighting for the last playoff spot. He came in on short notice. Maybe it was Tannehill was injured. They couldn't go with Malik Willis, if I'm remembering correctly, with if it was Tennessee. But Dobbs played a respectable game too, and I think they wound up losing. But Dobbs wasn't really the problem. Dobbs was actually played very respectable for them last year, and he did that this year too. And so he's been doing that for Arizona. So hats off to Joshua Dobbs. I don't want to take anything away from him, and I don't want to take anything away from Arizona with how fired up they came out to play. The Giants shortened, and that falls, since I believe that this team is too talented to look like that. That falls squarely on Dable and Kafka and Wink Martindale. Now, I got that out of the way, and it's funny because I wasn't even expecting to go off in a rant like that at the beginning of this episode. I was going to try to keep it positive. Actually, that was my full intent, was to keep it positive. Just to be like, all right, let's move on from the first 6 quarters. We still have a full season to go. But man, just as soon as we went live, I was like, you know what? It just came out of me. It just came out of me because those first 6 quarters were so disappointing. And the second half of that Arizona game, I have to give kudos to the defense too. It was not great. It was not great, but they did their part in only letting up 7 points in the second half and allowing the offense to keep coming back. And the offense was incredible because they had to score basically touchdowns and like one field goal on every single drive in the second half to win that game, and they did it. But the defense did their part too in that second half. But that defense, in my opinion, while it's not elite and it's not close to elite, it's got too much talent to be completely ineffective in every single phase of the defensive side of the ball. Completely ineffective. There's no excuse for it. There's no excuse for it. And in my opinion, if we don't see a substantial jump in the performance of this defense throughout the course of the season, starting really, really soon, Wink Martindale's got to go. Because, like I said, I'll get off of Wink Martindale. I'm going a little too much on the negativity here. Now I want to go with the positivity. Back to Daniel Jones. This is the dude who I always believed in. This is the dude who I saw in his rookie year when Pat Shurmur wanted him to be an aggressive quarterback. Pat Shurmur coached him to be an aggressive quarterback, and that's what he did. And yes, there were a lot of fumbles that came, a record number of fumbles that came that rookie season and his second season as well. And there were a record number of fumbles. A lot of it had to do with definitely staying in the pocket too long, no pocket awareness, getting sacked left and right. And but he was a dude. He was not afraid to stay in the damn pocket and look down the field to attack. Daniel Jones wants to pass the ball. And I'm not talking about this dink and dunk nonsense that we've seen for the past few years, including last year. And I'm not blaming the coaching staffs. This offense has been very, very limited. And it wasn't because of the quarterback. It was because of the weapons around him. And now he's got some decent weapons around him. And Darren Waller and now rookie Jalen Hyatt is popping up there too, amongst others. And yes, and a healthy Saquon. And a healthy, I know Saquon's out for the next few weeks with an ankle injury, but Saquon's been healthy. Yes, every good quarterback needs good weapons to succeed, to actually do something meaningful in a game, in a season, in his career. Every single quarterback. Unless you're Patrick Mahomes, which last year he did have Travis Kelce, but that was pretty much it. But unless you're like basically legendary level quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, I don't care if you're Joe Burrow, if you're Justin Herbert, pull some other really good quarterbacks out of your ass from history. They all had good weapons. Okay. If they were good quarterbacks, if they were good passers of the ball, they had good offensive weapons who were not just running backs. And Daniel Jones seems like he finally has that. They need to open this offense up. What we saw the second half of that Arizona game, I want to see in against San Francisco. We're probably going to get our doors blown off anyway. I want to keep that momentum going. I want to keep that sense of urgency going against San Francisco. And if it crashes and burns, as long as Daniel Jones doesn't get, completely beat up and broken down physically, getting by Nick Bosa with 10 sacks, that's what I want to see. Because that offense can do it. The combination of Waller, Hyatt, and even Darius Slayton, who's very fast in his own right, and who's always had a very good rapport with Daniel Jones. I want to see those guys downfield. I want to see Daniel Jones being allowed to attack downfield. I want to see Jalen Hyatt on the field more, starting against San Francisco. If he only has if there's only a limited amount of plays that he's, up to speed on playing, then run those limited amount of plays. What can I tell you? That will open things up more on the underneath. I don't want to see us. We can no longer just be, not with Waller and not with Hyatt, who's picking up steam here, and a Darius Slayton who's been around for a while now, who has a very good rapport with Daniel Jones. This can no longer just be a, just an offense that's fed through through our superstar running back in Saquon Barkley, and just looking for, dink and dunk plays within, 8 yards. It can't be that way anymore. It can't, because we have the talent to not do that. And you have a quarterback who can throw a very, very good deep ball. And we weren't even really seeing that in this game. And he was still put up well over 300 yards passing in the second half alone. And there were passes. There could have been other touchdowns there where there were balls that were underthrown. There were some balls that were underthrown. Some deep passes. Most of them were caught. None of them were intercepted. A lot of it's the timing. Number one, they don't run these type of plays very often. You got to run these plays a lot more to get comfortable with it. Also, with Jalen Hyatt, he doesn't really have that much of rapport with Jalen Hyatt. You have to have these long passes more, in my opinion. I'm not an expert, but I've been watching Giants football for 40 years, and football in general for 40 years. You have to get the timing down. Jalen Hyatt's got a different type of sneaky, watery type of speed, is the best way I like to describe it. He's like liquid. The dude is he's sneaky fast is a great way to put it, however you want, but I don't know, quicksilver or whatever, but he is fluid. Jalen Hyatt is fluid. His speed is so deceiving, but he's got to get on the same page with Jalen Hyatt's speed. And Darren Waller too. He's had a good rapport with Darren Waller so far. No complaints, Darren Waller. My complaints are not with Daniel Jones or his receiving weapons so far. It's been with the game plan. It's time to open things up. You saw what this offense looks like with Jalen Hyatt, and I realize it's Arizona. This game to me was kind of like the proving grounds for what this offense can be. You want to do it. It's kind of like when you're doing it in practice. You want to this is like a preseason game, where you're testing things out. Now it's time to take it out into the real games. I want to see this against San Francisco. I don't want to see them playing it safe against San Francisco. Balls to the wall, pedal to the metal, sense of urgency. Please don't take a step back, and be like, run first, Gary Brightwell or Matt Breida, or, and little safe passes, like, 5-yard passes or 3-yard passes. I don't want to see any jet sweeps. None of that crap. It doesn't work. At least not for our offense. It doesn't. And it hasn't worked for a long time. Worry about the deep stuff. Get that deep stuff going. This game is very, very tough. It's against one of the elite teams in the entire NFL, in San Francisco, an elite defense, an offense that can put up its own points. I don't know how our defense is really going to handle that. I'm not really expecting to. So go pedal to the metal, balls to the wall. Try to put as many points up as you can. Stretch that defense. I hope he's not trying to focus on the head coach. That is, I hope he's not trying to focus on, managing the game clock, keeping the ball out of their hands. No, use this game as kind of like another preseason game. This game is probably a loss, and that's acceptable. You're not going to win every game. That's okay. Get back healthy. Get ready for the next game, which I think is I don't know, Buffalo or Seattle. I don't remember. I think maybe Seattle. I think they're both winnable games, but you've got to get this offense stretched out. And everything I saw in that second half, I want to see against San Francisco. And if it fails, it fails. Another thing, the offensive line. We may have the remaking of the offensive line right before our eyes. Our new offensive line, you may have seen without Andrew Thomas, of course, but you may have seen our new offensive line in Arizona, and I liked what I saw. Again, I realized it was against Arizona. This wasn't Dallas. It wasn't, San Francisco. It wasn't, the number 10th ranked defense, by the end of the season. I realized that. But what I liked what I saw, Evan Neal played better. I'm not sold on him at right tackle, but I am sold on him. I strongly believe Evan Neal will be a good player on the offensive line. I'm not sold that's going to happen at right tackle. I'm not. Josh Ezeudu, who did an admirable job at left tackle filling for Andrew Thomas this game, could be that answer at right tackle, and I'm serious about that. His feet, and he did play, I think, left tackle. He played either left tackle or right tackle at UNC. His feet were very quick. His feet were what you want to see in an offensive tackle in the NFL. It's what you have to see in an offensive tackle in the NFL. You have to see that. You see with Andrew Thomas. You saw those good, quick feet with Ezeudu. He's got a lot to clean up. But for a guy, I don't care if it's Arizona. They're an NFL team. For a guy who came in and played limited snaps last year, had a major knee injury. I forgot what it was. I don't remember if it was torn ACL or whatever. But it's back now. He was a third-round pick last year. They drafted him in the third round of UNC for a reason. They had plans to eventually play this guy. And I really liked what I see here. I think he could be the answer at right tackle. I'm not giving up on Evan Neal just yet, but I'm making a prediction. I don't think Evan Neal, I don't like what I see with Evan Neal. His feet, I don't think he's got the feet to play tackle in the NFL. I don't. But I do think he could be a really good guard, Evan Neal. I think he could be a really good guard in Evan Neal. But I do like the feet that I see with Joshua Ezeudu. Either way, I want to see Ezeudu on this line. I want to see Evan Neal on this line. This organization had better not go the Eric Flowers route, where because they drafted this guy high in the first round, no matter what, he has to be a tackle. No matter what, he has to be a tackle. No matter what, he has to be a tackle. That's what the Jerry Reese regime did for a few years. And it was part of the reason why the Jerry Reese regime was gone after 2017. I don't want to see that with Evan Neal. Doesn't mean he has to be a bust. He may. I'm not giving up on him just yet. He may wind up being a bust as a tackle. But like I said, I think he could wind up being a very, very good guard. He is big and he's strong. I just don't think he necessarily has the feet to play the tackle position in the NFL. But again, I think Ezeudu does. Marcus McKeithen, 5th round pick in 2022 from UNC as well. He was on the same line with Joshua Ezeudu. I like the way he looked at right guard. And he's got to be the guard going forward, one of the starting guards going forward. JMS had a really, really good game. What you expect from, second round center, a guy who could have went in the back end of the first round. We got him in the second. Thank God, knock on wood, he was there. JMS looked solid. He's still, he's a young player. He's, rookie. He's got stuff to clean up too, but looked good, especially in the run game. Pass protection wasn't bad either. But that's where the real room for improvement is with JMS. He's a smart dude. I've got no doubt he's going to get better and better and better, and continue to play, and continue to grow to being, eventually, in a season or two, Pro Bowl conversations for center. But I think there's a good, strong chance what we saw, and it could finally be here. We finally may have the birthing of a good, young offensive line. And Andrew Thomas on one end, JMS in the center, and then some combination of Evan Neal, Joshua Ezeudu, Marcus McKeithen, play them, put those last three names at the two guard positions and right tackle, stack them however you want. But I think we've got the beginnings of what we want in a good young offensive line. I think this is it. Not that we can't add to it next year in the next draft, maybe free agency, but probably in the draft. Not that we can't add to it or possibly improve it. But I think this is what we're seeing. I think you saw the birthing of the rest, of the 2023 offensive line. You just saw it birthed in this game at Arizona. Of course, without Andrew Thomas, who should be back, I assume, fairly soon. Probably not for the San Francisco game, but again, whatever. Let's just get out of there without any key injuries. But he should be back soon enough. I'm very excited about that because I'm sick and tired of these middling, Mark Glanowski or whatever his name is, type of overpaid, just middling, offensive linemen who are maybe not. Some of them have been old over the past 5 or 6 years. Some of them have just been not living up to expectations, like Glanowski, whatever his name is. I'm done with that. Like if you're going to be a mediocre player, be a 5th round pick out of whatever college. If you're going to be mediocre, don't pay a lot of money for that mediocrity. But these guys have a lot more potential than some of these crappy veterans we've had over the past few years, including Mark Glanowski, whatever his name is. These guys have the potential for growth. They have the potential to get better. Marcus McKeithen, drafted last year. They had high expectations for him last year. Unfortunately, tore his ACL in preseason last year. So he missed all of last year. He stepped in, first game ever in the NFL, and played the entire game, and he played it well. I don't care if it's Arizona. I don't care. It doesn't matter. They're a big reason, too, why the Giants succeeded in that second half yesterday or the other day in Arizona. So hats off to you, offensive line. Hats off to you guys. You guys, you should be pretty much the weakest unit on this team right now, considering how young they are, how inexperienced they are. And they wound up playing, much better than the defense did. I'll give them that. But right now, we need to see this passing attack. It needs to continue to grow. And I pray that Brian Daboll doesn't play it safe against San Francisco. If you get your doors blown off, get your doors blown off. I just don't want Daniel to get hurt. But attack. We will fight in the air, on the ground, and at sea. Is that Winston Churchill? Great line, whatever it was. I slaughtered it, but I love Winston Churchill, and he had some great line like that anyway. But anyway, so for the rest of the season, I do think, listen, I haven't given up on this season. I was flabbergasted. Like I said, I was fascinated by the sheer, dumpster fire this team was for 6 quarters to start this season. And I can't say enough because it was flabbergasting. It was incredible. But man, Daniel Jones is our Batman, our Superman. He is our superhero. And he can play like that quite often, I believe. Even in really tough matchups. But you got to let him be an aggressive quarterback. He had over 300 yards combined, in the air and on the ground. And, he himself directly responsible for 3 touchdowns in the second half. He was the only quarterback in history, I believe, to put up all the combined numbers that he put up, the like 250 or more passing yards, plus like 59 rushing yards, something like that. The 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I think he's the only quarterback in history to do that. And you can't take that away from them. You can't take that away from them at all. There have been plenty of great quarterbacks, have been in that situation before, against a team that they shouldn't have been behind, and they weren't able to put up those numbers. Not that they haven't had great comebacks, but not like that. And not where everything just wasn't working for the entire team. And Daniel Jones, again, like he did many times last season, and he didn't get the proper credit for. Just all the credit only went to Daboll and Barkley. And kudos to them. I'm not taking anything away from Daboll and Barkley. And I love Saquon Barkley. I'm not taking anything away from them. Daniel Jones put this team on his back plenty of times last year. Daniel Jones in his rookie and throughout his career with the Giants put this team on his back many times. The results weren't there because the teams overall sucked. They were horrible. But even in his rookie year, he averaged, he had 24 touchdown passes in 12 games his rookie season. You extrapolate that over 16 games, that's 32 passing touchdowns his rookie year on a team that was ground zero of a rebuild. He did that in his rookie year. With a Saquon Barkley, who was playing with a high ankle sprain for half the season, and like his best receiving weapons, Evan Ingram, Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, averaging 9 starts each that season. Because the head coach, Pat Shermer, wanted him to be aggressive. He wanted them to stay around the pocket with the ball. Not that he wanted him to get sacked and fumbled, but he wanted them to hold on to the ball and make passes. And Daniel did that. And a lot of people think, oh, those were just garbage time touchdowns. I watched every single touchdown pass from Daniel Jones in his rookie season. I've seen the video multiple times. There's many videos out there. Pick whatever one you want. There was not one garbage time touchdown in his rookie campaign. There may have been one you could kind of say was a Detroit Lions game where he scored like his final touchdown with a minute to go and a minute left in the game, and it brought them within a touchdown. So at least it gave you a chance to, recover an onside kick. But that's the only thing that arguably could have been a garbage time touchdown pass in his rookie campaign. The other games, the Giants were behind 10-0 after the first quarter every single game his rookie year, and I'm not even exaggerating. If Daniel Jones in his rookie year, if the Giants were only down 10-0 after the first quarter, you were lucky. He brought them back in most of those games. Some of those games, no, it was blowout city, where they weren't coming back. Most of those games he led the team back and made it competitive at least. And none of them were garbage time touchdowns. None of them. My point being that this is what Daniel Jones is capable of. And this is what Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen saw in him when they gave him the $40 million contract, which I agreed with. I don't care what the number was going to be. I thought it was going to be like $38 million, but I wasn't shocked by $40 million. I knew the quarterback market was going up. This is what he can be. And people are going to say, well, he needs to be more consistent. Damn, man. Hot damn. Yeah, he needs to be more consistent. The rest of the friggin' team, the rest of the offense, and the rest of the play calling needs to be consistent too. They need to allow this quarterback to be that quarterback you saw the second half against Arizona. And no, even if it looks ugly against San Francisco, I don't care. Get Jalen Hyatt out there. Send Darius Slayton down the field. Send Darren Waller deeper. Open the short and intermediate stuff. Let those guys take those deep shots, and maybe if the deep shots aren't there, at least it'll open things up for things underneath. Whether it's Sterling Shepard, Paris Campbell, Wan'Dale Robinson, if he's back, your running backs. But go deep. Keep that momentum going. I want to see that. It's time to do that. If the Giants believe in this quarterback, I realize it's not just about belief in the quarterback. It's not. You have to believe in like Jalen Hyatt, who is a rookie, and he is raw. He's raw in his route running, So I realize you can't necessarily rush these things, but there's got to be a sense of urgency. The way that the defense has played so far, pretty much through 2 games, I'll give them a mulligan on the second half of the Arizona game because the defense did its part. Nothing flashy, nothing great. 0 sacks and 0 interceptions so far in 2 friggin' games. 0 sacks, 0 interceptions. That shit is not tolerable. It's completely ridiculous. And again, this defense has got too much talent to be like that. It's not acceptable. It's not. So, listen, I'm not worried about Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley and Darren Waller, I'm not worried about those players at all. Andrew Thomas, when he's healthy, when he comes back, I'm not worried about those guys at all. I'm not worried about them at all. Not Daniel Jones at all. But they need to, listen, they need to open things up. They need to be aggressive here. You paid the guy $40 million a year, which I agree with because I love Daniel Jones and I think he's got it. I think he's got it. He's got that it factor. He does. Let him do it. Let him be that friggin' guy. Give him the chance to do it. It's not going to work out all the time, especially against a team like San Francisco. It's not. And I'm not being down about the San Francisco game, guys. I always had this pegged as a big time ass kicking, to be honest with you, even before the season started. I'm like, there's no way our defense, as much as I thought the defense was improved, I'm like, there's no way we're going to be we'll be able to handle that San Fran offense. I think to handle that San Fran offense, you have to be an elite defense like the Cowboys or the Eagles. The Giants aren't like that, and their defense is so good that, there's probably only so much we can do. But I fully expect that, and I fully accept that. And that's why I say go pedal to the metal, man. Balls to the wall. Try to keep the momentum going. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I don't want to see just playing it safe in this game. It's just I don't want to see that. So, but man, like I said, Daniel Jones, man, I could always talk about Daniel Jones because I love that guy. I think he's got the it factor. I always have. He's perfect for the Giants. I'm so glad, he's our quarterback for the next few years. I'm so glad Daniel Jones has been our quarterback for the previous few years. I'm so glad Dave Gettleman drafted him number 6 overall back in 2019. It wasn't the pick I wanted at the time. I got on board real quick though. And ever since then, I've been in that Daniel Jones foxhole. I'll tell you that. So it's not just, it is not based. My belief in Daniel Jones is not because I'm a Giants fan. I'm hardest on my team's players. Everything that I've seen throughout his career tells me, like, if you surround this guy with talent, he's going to do well. He's going to do really well. Daniel Jones is not the problem. And man, not just any quarterback puts up that performance that you saw against Arizona. And again, I don't care it was against Arizona. They're an NFL team. It doesn't matter. Not any quarterback does that. He had to be perfect, and he basically was. Could have even been better. Jalen Hyatt could have had like 2 80-yard touchdown passes. But again, some of those balls were underthrown. Again, that is a matter of practice and repetitiveness, and running those plays more often and getting used to the speed of Jalen Hyatt. Daniel Jones throws a really, really nice deep ball, and those deep balls were fine against Arizona. And they were certainly good enough to win, but I'm telling you, he can be even better when he gets the timing down with Jalen Hyatt and even Darius Slayton. But they got to run those plays more often in order to do that. Practice it more, of course, on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and your practice days. But you got to do them in real life game situations too. And that's what I want to see. It's time. It is time to be an aggressive offense and to let Daniel Jones, let him ball out, dude. Let him ball out. He's got it in him. This guy wants to attack. People think that, he wants to play it safe. And no, he doesn't. He wants to be an aggressive quarterback. He wants to look downfield. He wants to do that. You saw it in his rookie year. That's what he wants to do. You saw it in his rookie year with some really good results. There was also some bad results with the fumbles, but my point being is that he wants to be an aggressive quarterback. Let him be an aggressive quarterback. That's why you're paying him. And that's what the really good quarterbacks are. Yes, they can be. He's not a guy who's prone to interceptions, and he's not a guy who's prone to fumbles anymore. His pocket manipulation, his pocket maneuverability has drastically improved, where I fully believe in the guy now when it comes to his pocket manipulation and his ability to maneuver around the pocket. He's ready. Daniel Jones is ready. Let him be that guy. So anyway, guys, all right, it's almost 45 minutes here, this recording. I should have ended 15 minutes ago, but I wasn't able to do a recording, an episode after week 1 game against Dallas. I wasn't hiding from the results or anything like that. Work had just been very, very, very busy. And obviously, my job is always going to come first, over everything except for my family. So, but anyway, man, I wish I came with a little, I am positive. Don't get me wrong. I'm really positive, but it's funny. As soon as the camera turned on and I hit the recording button, I just started lighting into the team for the start of the season. It shouldn't have been like that. It shouldn't have been like that. A loss against Dallas is totally cool. Really shouldn't have had a hard problem in Arizona. And I accept and expect a loss against San Francisco. Coming out of these first 3 games, 1-2 is no problem to me. And don't sweat it as a Giants fan. Dallas is a Super Bowl contender. So is San Francisco. I think Dallas is even better. I think they and Philadelphia are the class of the NFL this year. But still, we never should have had our doors blown off like that, looking so unprepared. That was disappointing. This season's got to start now. Again, not expecting a win against San Francisco, but get this offense rolling, air that ball out, get back home. And I forgot who we're playing. If it's Seattle next, back home, or Buffalo, whatever, take it from there. Those are winnable games. Plenty of people think we have no chance to beat Buffalo. I certainly do. I absolutely do. But this team's got to play up to its talent that it has. It has to play up to its talent. But I think we can beat Buffalo. If we can get things straightened out, I think we can beat Buffalo. And I think we can beat Seattle. I do. I don't think Seattle is any better than we are. I think we're neck and neck. That game could go either way. I really do. So let's get out of San Francisco without any more injuries, and let this offense do its thing. Just do it. And whatever happens, happens. Anyway, guys, I'm out of here. That was a great win against Arizona, man. Historic. What a performance of Daniel Jones, my guy. Love him to death. Jalen Hyatt, so glad we got you in the third round, man. So glad we got you. So looking forward to Jalen Hyatt continuing to develop. But, man, what a difference maker he has been already. Just in the second game of his career, NFL career, what a difference maker. Darren Waller, difference maker. Darius Slayton had a nice game, man. And kudos to our young cornerbacks, Trey Hawkins and Deontay Banks. Kudos to them. And also Pinnock, the young safety as well. Kudos to these guys, man. Kudos. That's all I got to say, guys. I'm glad we have a Thursday night game. We always shit the bed, to be honest. I know it's a family network, and I shouldn't say curse words, but sometimes it's just warranted. We always shit the bed primetime games. Tomorrow, like I said, I want to relax. I want to see that offense opened up. I don't want to see it playing safe. Open it up, and let's get out of there healthy. Guys, I'm out of here. Here's my really cool outro video, and I'll see you soon. Take care.